Well, if you were really hoping this next fusion was going to bomb, well, have I got news for you. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. We are here on the free-to-play account, but it honestly doesn't matter too much here. We are here to talk about a brand new fragment fusion. This fusion is coming Thursday the 20th, and, should be kind of interesting. We're going to break down this kit. We're going to talk about where this champion might be useful. We're going to be talking about whether or not you should be going for this champion. Spoilers, he looks like he's kind of good. But we're going to talk about all that stuff as well as, possible recovery from the Leonardo event. So let's go take a look at this new fusion. So here we have Kroz Wallbreaker. He is a spirit attack champion from the Ogryn tribe. And honestly, let's face it, the Ogryn have needed help for a long time. It was actually something I have thought about talking about, actually, is that the Ogryn really needed a ton of help. Ogryn champions have been buffed left and right. In fact, I believe almost every single Void legendary in the Ogryn tribe has been touched, other than Grisur, who was honestly very good to start with, so they didn't need to touch him. But still, the Ogryn tribe is really hurting, and this hopefully will actually help them out a little bit. First of all, the dude looks absolutely amazing, good champion, and I guess the Ogryn faction's always got kind of a weird look about them because the Ogryn do look very, very wildly different, and I think I kind of like that. It's kind of nice to have a faction that it's not just humans, but it's not just, oh, here's a bunch of animals either. These are definitely large, giant creatures, but there is a lot of variety in them, which is actually kind of cool. So what does this dude do? Well, he's a bomb champion. So if you're looking for bombs, which to be fair, there's at least one floor, I believe it's floor 10 in the Ogryn Hard Faction Wars, where you're going to need bombs, and he is going to be coming in very useful, but he could also be interesting for the arena as well. So let's talk about what he does, and then we'll talk a little bit about bombs and why they are so good in Raid currently. So first of all, his A1 is a triple hitter, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each head has a 30% chance, bookable to 50, of decreasing the detonation countdown of all bomb debuffs on the target by 1 turn. So basically, in 3 hits, he is going to on average 1.5 times drop the duration of bombs, so that he might actually just explode them, especially if it's more than 2-turn cooldown on them. He's got a chance to cool down there. If they've only got 1, he could blow them up immediately. He also has a 30% chance of placing a stun debuff, bookable to 50% on the A1. That's a really good A1. 50% stun would already be a very solid A1. Now, that's not a per hit. The per hit is only going to be the bomb portion of that. But still, very good A1, very usable A1. As an attack-based champion, hopefully it does some decent damage as well. Although you're not going to build him with some crit rate, because that's not how you build bomb champion. So, A2 is Battlefield Sapper, 5-turn cooldown, bookable to 4, 75% chance of placing 2 bomb debuffs, bookable to 100% chance on each enemy that detonates after 2 turns. So basically, bombs are kind of reverse debuffs, where they have a cooldown, and they're not their cooldown, but they have a duration, and rather than a duration that lasts and they last for that many turns, just like a poison, basically they count down, and when they go to 0, they go off and do their damage. And this fills this champion's turn meter by 25% for each enemy with a bomb debuff. So that means that if he places 2 bombs, that's a 50% turn meter boost. If he places 6 bombs, that's a 150% turn meter boost. Now, that doesn't mean he has to place the bombs either. And to be fair, we do need to know whether or not this is going to work when he places the bombs, because what happens where they place the bombs first, and then he activates his second ability, then he's going to get turn meter boost based off placing those bombs. Otherwise, that's only really going to come into play if there are other bomb champions on the team, or for some reason he's managed to loop around and get this ability a second time, which given the way his kit works, probably not going to work. But at a 5-turn cooldown for bookable to 4, the 4-turn cooldown makes this feel a little awkward, but because he effectively is almost getting an extra turn from that, then it may not be as bad. Plus, he's got some extra turn meter buff in his kit as well. I do find it kind of interesting that he has a book that does an additional 10% damage on the Battlefield Sapper, but Battlefield Sapper doesn't attack, at least according to the way this description works. So why is there a damage book there, Polarium? I'm actually kind of curious about that. I'm sure we'll get clarification on that, or maybe a fix on that. Maybe they'll just remove that particular book, because right now he needs 12 books, and it's not bad, but it would be nice if he needed a few less. So regardless, let's go take a look at his A3. Mangonel Maul attacks all enemies, so there's your AoE nuke. Has a 75% chance of decreasing the detonation countdown of all bomb debuffs by 1 turn, bookable to 100%. And also has a 75% chance, bookable to 100, of placing block active skills for 2 turns. So this is kind of cool. So a couple things about his kit. And I forgot to mention about Battlefield Sapper. Because he is placing bombs without an attack, at least the way that that skill reads, that means he is an affinity-friendly bomber, which means that he can place bombs without having to attack, which means he doesn't weak hit, and that's going to help him place bombs against everybody. And that is huge, particularly for a spirit champion when there are a lot of meta magic champions that he's going to struggle with in PvP. So again, get back to his Mangonel, attacks all enemies, then decreases the duration of all bombs by 1 turn, has a chance of placing block active skills as well. It looks like it gets a little bit of extra damage, books up to 100%, 3-turn cooldown. Very, very good skill. 3-turn cooldown, block active skills, great. Detonating bombs doesn't sound particularly exciting, but if he's going to do some damage with that skill, and he's placing the bombs in the first place, that suddenly becomes a much more interesting skill overall. To be fair, this is one of the things that makes Nishak really, really good, because Nishak increases the duration of poisons and decreases the countdown timer for bombs, allowing him to make bombs with a 1-turn cooldown, when he can basically take an extra turn after placing bombs for 2 turns. So if he gets turn meter off of placing his bombs on that A3 and then gets another, on that A2 and then places and trends the bombs with the A3, he basically is going to do something very similar to Nishak. And Nishak is a meta PvP champion. He is usable in PvP in the current environment. Heck, I hate facing him just because if I haven't built a team specifically to deal with bombs, it's a pain to deal with a Nishak. So this dude's going to bring a very similar vibe, just with slightly different affinities, been working slightly differently, but block active skills gives him another really good utility on a lot of teams, so that's pretty cool. Finally, he's got a passive here, fills all allies' turn meter by 5% each time a bomb debuff detonates, and that's all allies. So that means he places 2 bombs, makes them on 1 turn, and then each of those 2 bombs goes off and everybody's turn meter goes up by 10%. So he's going to continue to tick on the turn. Plus, if you are stacking more bombs because you're bringing like a Nishak, for example, you could get even more turn meter as those bombs continue to detonate. He also has a 20% chance of activating an instant turn effect on this champion whenever an ally or an enemy is killed by a bomb debuff. So he can just instantly take a turn when somebody dies with a bomb. And I don't see a cooldown on this, although I suspect there should be one, but maybe he doesn't have a cooldown on this. So it is entirely possible for him to put bombs on somebody, make them on 1 turn cooldown, bomb kills the first champion, he gets a turn, he then sets it off with his A1, he then gets another turn because somebody died from the bombs, and keeps on going and going and going. He has a chance to wipe an entire team out with that passive. Now, it's not a great chance, and hopefully Polarium won't nerf it, but it's a chance, which is kind of cool and makes him potentially very scary in Arena. And honestly makes them interesting in other content as well, because you need to kill people with bombs for some of the hard faction wars missions. And it's one of the best ways to kill people with bombs, is to set the bombs off. And if you can reliably set the bombs off on your turn, you don't have to wait for people to take a turn, let alone somebody else has a chance to resist them and then cleanse everybody else and cause problems. Finally, he has a 30% attack aura in All Battles. It's an attack aura. It's fine. All Battles is great. You know, I don't know a lot of people that use this outside of, you know, some PvE, but, you know, it's an aura. It's not a bad aura. So, what makes bombs special? Well, bombs, when they go off, unlike things like poison, well, actually, I say, like things like poison and like things like burns, bombs ignore defense. The difference is bombs do damage based on the attack value of the champion placing them, other than Commodus, who does it off of HP instead. But that means in his case, increase attack means his bombs will do more damage. So that's another way you can work with him. In fact, there's a reason why bomb champions tend to like increase accuracy and increase attack champions to go along with them. The increased accuracy means that it's easier to build them with a lot of extra speed and attack and a little less accuracy so that they can get the accuracy to land bombs, which to be fair are a debuff, which makes them sheep fodder. But because they ignore defense, they can kill a lot of champions that might otherwise not be killed. They don't need your savage or your lethal, which means you can build them in alternative builds such as Stone Skin and, for example, Supersonic, so that your bomb champion might interrupt and go a little faster, or Pinpoint so they can't be controlled, making them more difficult to control them in the first place, or 2-piece or 3-piece Stone Skin, so the Stone Skin is just almost irresistible for them. But here's the other thing that bomb champions do as well, is bombs do 300% extra damage against Stone Skin champions. So they can not only crack open Stone Skin, but they can actually kill people inside of Stone Skin much easier. So it is a way to counter Stone Skin for people that don't have ways to counter Stone Skin. So this guy, for newer players that are going to struggle against champions in Stone Skin, gives you a bomb champion who can possibly dominate Stone Skin builds. Can be very frustrating for non-bombers to deal with. Can be very frustrating and can be a great way to get into some arena that you might not be able to win otherwise, because Stone Skin is a meta for a reason, and bombs are supposed to be one of the big counters for Stone Skin. So that's going to be awesome. On top of that, he's going to be a damage dealer because bombs are a way to deal damage. Plus, you're going to build him with a ton of attack. So there's a good chance his A3 is going to do some decent damage. Nishak can actually nuke. He's actually got some pretty good damage multipliers. In fact, I've apparently heard, Biohack used to run Nishak as a straight nuker, which was apparently fairly amusing, but he literally would just nuke somebody. And, you know, hey, kind of cool. Nishak is definitely a surprise build with Nishak, but Nishak can hit a ton, and I think Kroz is going to be very similar. He's going to be able to do a ton of damage. Plus, you have War Mother in this particular faction as well, so if you do have War Mother, then you'll have two different bomb champions, and you'll have somebody that can help detonate War Mother's bombs, which is really her biggest weakness, is those bombs take 2 turns, and she doesn't have a way to detonate them easily. So, bombs, very good. Great way to do damage. Going to be a fun champion. He's going to be a damage dealer for a faction that struggles to deal damage, or at least I've found they struggle to deal damage because they don't have a lot of really good damage dealers. And it's going to help buff a faction that really has needed help for a while. So he is a very, very good champion, and it's going to be a fragment fusion summon. So it is going to be get 100 fragments, get this champion. Those tend to be very, very easy to deal with. So what do I think about this fusion? Well, I think this fusion is great. Is he a must fuse? Well, no, there is no such thing as a must fuse champion. However, I would certainly say this is a recommended fuse if you can manage to make the fusion. Now we've got a week to kind of recoup and recover shards. It is a 2x Sacred weekend coming up this weekend. That's not really super exciting, so that's not a big deal. Just skip it. Just don't worry about it. You save your Sacreds. They are good for your summon rushes. They are good tools to get you good fusion champions. They are not as good to just yeet randomly because, you know, it's a 12% chance to get a legendary. It sounds great, but there's a good chance you could pull 20 or 30 of them and not get a legendary. That's the way Sacred Shard luck can be. Or, you know, to be fair, you could also get like 5 to 10 legendaries in 30 Sacreds too. Luck is weird, so I prefer to use them as currency for getting champions, and I think that's going to help you out the best you can do for progressing your account. So I'm recommending you fuse this guy if you can. I'm going to try on my free-to-play. I'm going to try on my main. Now, here's the thing to think about. So we do have a new Doom Tower rotation. So if you're able to beat Hard Doom Tower, you can get 2 Sacred Shards just from that. You'll be able to pull Mystery Shards in a Summon Rush. So Mystery Shards are an option to get the Summon Rush done to some level. So you're going to have an option for that. It is likely going to be 2x Voids the week afterwards, unless it is 2x everything, because the week afterwards is going to be the Black Friday and Thanksgiving weekend. And quite often they do a 2x everything weekend for that, while having all kinds of great sales on shards and other stuff as well. So if you have to dip into your pocket for a little bit to get some shards, well, a 2x everything weekend is not the worst time to be pulling some of those shards. You could certainly do worse. And if you're with an account where you don't want to be pulling a lot of shards, you know you're not going to get a ton of shards, and you can make the summon rush happen, well, that champion chase is going to be easier because you can still do things like fuse your Broadmaws, pull other fragment champions that you might collect in Doom Tower or in other areas of the game. There are ways to get champions and points without having to, well, basically buy shards if you can set up your account to do it. So without a lot of shards, without a lot of resources, I think this fusion should still be doable. I know it's going to be doable on my main, both because if I have to, I could certainly, dip in a little bit because you guys are absolutely amazing and I appreciate all the support. But even then, I've already got like 3 Sacreds on my main, and I haven't beat Doom Tower yet. So I'll have 5 or 6 of them by the time the Summon Rush comes around, which will be enough to do the Summon Rush. On my free-to-play, I'll have at least 2 from Doom Tower, and hopefully I'll get, maybe 2 more from Clan Boss, maybe a few more, and we'll see where I get from there. So I think it'll be an okay fusion to do. And to be fair, it's also, as I said, a fragment fusion is one of the easier ones to do. You can plot out where you're going to get these fragments from. You pretty much can just do the missions. You don't have to worry about doing a champion training to train up and fuse the rest of the champions. Plus, if you get the champion in this fusion, you don't have to actually yeet him right away. You can keep him in your vault until you are ready to, summon him, either because he's going to help your account and you need to summon him, or maybe you want the points for a champion chase or a PvP or a CVC that's personal rewards or something along those lines. Or you could save him for a future, again, champion chase fusion. And that's more fuel to get more champions using a fusion that hopefully should be very doable. So I'm recommend going for him. I think his kit looks absolutely amazing. I think if you don't have a bomber, he's going to be a great bomber. If you have other bombers, you might be able to build a full bomb team. And I can tell you right now, if you're going bombs and all you're picking is Nishak, Nishak is really easy to ban. But if you decide you want to pick Nishak and Kroz, then you're forcing them to pick their poison as to which bomber do they want to ban, because they cannot ban both of them, or they need to shift so that they can actually deal with bombers in the first place, which oftentimes if you pick your bomber as one of your last 1 or 2 champions, they have maybe a single pick left to shift and pick somebody that might help keep them deal with bombs. So, it's certainly worth looking at, and I think this champion is going to help a lot of people. And if you decide you have to skip it because you just don't have the resources because you're spent from this Leo path, well then, you know what? I totally understand. This guy will be in the pool. You'll be able to pull him later on. He is not an exclusive champion, so don't kill yourself if you just are not going to be able to make it, or maybe you're going to be busy for the weekend because you're going to be busy doing, stuff for Thanksgiving for those of you in the U.S. There's all kinds of stuff that could be good for you. So definitely appreciate you guys. Nice to hang out with you guys. Nice to talk with you. I am certainly excited to try to get this guy on both of the accounts. And I think, to be fair, we've got a full week break between now and when this starts. In fact, we've got actually a little bit more than a week. That should be enough time to kind of recoup your resources while you kind of circle the wagons and start training up some of your other champions. Plus, there will be champion training events and other things like that in this as well. So Guys, I really do appreciate you guys hitting that like button and hit that subscribe button. Let me know down below. Do you think this is a champion you want to go for? Do you think you can go for him? What do you think about this champion? I want to hear from you guys. And are you kind of tired and just going to take a break, or are you going for him? So appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day. You guys are one of the best communities in Raid. And until the next video, I am Bront, CatHerder.